So when I tell people that I work in the creative industry, inevitably, somebody always says to me, "Oh, I could never do what you do. I'm just not creative enough." Now here's the thing, I don't necessarily believe them, but it turns out more people would agree with that person than with me. In a study done by Adobe, 75% of employees said they felt pressured to be more productive than creative at work. And only 25% of those employees believed they were reaching their creative potential. Now, with those statistics in mind, you might think we just don't value creativity in the workforce anymore. But a study done at Forbes reported that 70% of employers believed creative thinking was the most in-demand skill for their workforces this year. So here's the question. How do we bridge the gap in that data? How do we feel more empowered to be creative in our workplaces, our classrooms, and our lives? Edward de Bono, a physician and author on thought patterns, once said, "Creativity is not a mystical talent. It is a skill that can be practiced and nurtured." So like any skill worth learning, creativity is accessible with just a little practice. Now, de Bono also originated the concept of lateral thinking. This was his way to define how people can generate more innovative thoughts. You see, our ideas are prone to build on existing concepts within our knowledge, and therefore our ideas tend to build up on familiar foundations. This means our ideas are more similar to each other than not, or more vertical patterns of thinking. The goal here is to break down logical and deductive reasoning. We want to wipe that slate clean to allow new foundations of ideas to emerge and create a more lateral plane of ideation. To demonstrate this further, I'd love to take you all through a quick exercise. Now, just in your mind's eye, I'd like you to picture a square. Now, I am going to give you 3 seconds to divide this square into 4 segments. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Pencils, or in this case, minds, down. Now, how many of you came up with a concept that looks like any of the squares pictured above here? These most likely will feel extremely familiar to you because they live deep within the recesses of our memory. Now, I'm most fond here of the solution on the left because when I was a little kid, I loved to draw over the walls, on paper, on the floor if I could. But one of the things I learned to draw first was a house. So of course, I remember that shape as the way I used to draw windows. See, when only given 3 seconds, our mind calls upon reason and brings in barriers for us to reach a solution more quickly. To further explain this, we can also look at the prompt itself. I asked you to divide the square into 4 segments. I didn't say those segments had to be equal in size or the line straight, but your mind most likely put those barriers in for you in order to get from point A, the problem, to point B, the solution, most efficiently, forsaking anything your mind decided was an indirect thought. Now, here are a couple of ways that you could have solved this prompt today. Each of these, as you count, have 4 segments within each square. But again, unless you were prepared ahead of time to solve this prompt, your mind likely wasn't in a creative space. But now that we've already broken down some thought barriers today, and because I'm just very generous, I'd like to give us all 10 seconds to think of a new way to divide a square into 4 segments that you haven't seen already. Ready? 10. 3, 2, 1. And that's time. How many of you came up with a solution that was different from your first? I love using this exercise when I'm feeling a little stuck on a problem. I'll just take out a piece of paper and jot down a couple of quick squares and try and figure out a way to divide them into segments that I haven't done so before. And I hope you'll use this tool as well the next time you need to tap into some creativity. But what if I had given you 30 seconds, 5 minutes, 3 hours to solve this? The key to learning any skill, and creativity in general is to give yourself time. It takes time to understand the nuances of a skill and to fold it into the routines of our everyday life. But I would argue that time happens to be one of the most valuable and rarest currencies of all. Even in 1971, Herbert A. Simon, a Nobel laureate and physician, also defined the attention economy. Now, this was his way to discuss the information overload on society at the time. Now, in 1971, as some of you may recall, phones were still mounted to the wall, and screens were isolated to the family television set in the den. I don't even want to know what Simon would think of our world today, where our hands and our eyes are glued to little cyber bricks that fit in our pockets. Between all of the projects, scheduling, assignments, to-do lists, and the 5-minute turned 45-minute social media scroll break, our minds truly don't have any time in our days for creativity. In his book, Models of My Life, Simon said, "Enlightenments, like accidents, happen only to prepared minds." So now that we know we have the power to be creative, we still have to answer the question, how do we get there? Here are a couple of things I like to do when I need to tap into more creativity. The first and most important, in my opinion, is to try and break up with your device routines. If you are an endless scroller that uses social media, messenger, or email to fill in all of the free time in between your tasks, this one's for you, okay? Try silencing notifications, setting a timer for yourself, or better yet, delete the apps altogether if you can. Try and make communication a focus task for yourself, rather than a scrolling time suck. Once you have that time back, try using it to reconnect with the physical world in front of you. We talked today about how we have to break down barriers and emerge new foundations of ideas. So take a walk outside, sit at a local park, or saunter through an art exhibit. Take your time in spaces you don't normally occupy and intentionally observe the world around you. You might just see or learn something brand new. And finally, practice mindfulness in order to bring your focus back to the present, rather than pondering the past or fretting about the future. Allow me to take you through one last exercise today. Take our hands and let's place them on our laps and our feet flat on the ground. Now focus your attention fully on the screen, emptying your mind of whatever other thoughts you may have. Now let's bring that square back from earlier. Only this time, as you see the square expand and grow, I'd like you to take an inhale through your nose. When it stops, we're gonna pause. And then as the square shrinks back down, we're going to exhale quietly out of our mouths. Ready? Just promise me that if you needed to return to normal breathing for any reason, you will, okay? Here we go. And we're back. This technique is based on another technique called box breathing, which is known to lessen stress, improve your mood, and even help you to retain better focus. So whether you are using a breathing exercise, meditating, or just taking 5 minutes to sit and do absolutely nothing else, mindfulness is never that far away. I hope you will use these practices in your toolbox the next time you are faced with a problem, to observe it from all angles and think laterally in order to generate more innovative ideas. But more importantly, I hope you feel empowered today, knowing that you have the power to make your world just a little more creative. Thank you very much.